The 2025 zr1 is going to be one of the rarest cars, maybe the rarest. I don't know the production numbers for some of the more rare Corvettes, but it's got to be lower. At 60 that they've made so far, that's got to be one of the lowest ever. It probably is. It probably has something to do with constraints in the carbon fiber. Now, this is actually kind of funny because I think it was last year at Carlisle, somebody actually asked one of the engineers, I think it was Josh Holder, they asked him how they're going to handle constraints on the C8 ZR1 whenever the car comes standard in any option you choose, comes standard with a significant amount of carbon fiber. How are you going to battle constraints when the car comes standard with some of this stuff? And they basically said, oh, don't worry about that. We got that solved. We got that figured out. See that? Kind of looks like maybe they don't. Wait a second. Yeah, it probably should have been a 26. If I had to guess, they planned on having the ZR1 out, built, and delivered to customers a lot earlier than they ended up being able to do. I would say that they probably were going to hit the ground running on the 2025 model year with the ZR1, and that it was going to be available for the majority of the 2025 model year. Since, whatever delays led them up to that point, they probably should have just pushed it back to a 26. But the reason that they couldn't is because they had already put out a bunch of advertising, a bunch of things on, the actual GM website and their videos and everything saying that it was going to be a 2025 model year. So they had to build them, at least a few, for 2025. That's probably why they're not building as many as they could at this point, because they just need to get some out there to say that they did, in fact, make it a 25 model year. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure there's probably a rarer option out there. But when I talked to Steven earlier, he said something about my C7 ZR1 being rarer. And I said, at this point, no. Like, the C7, they made almost 3,000 on it. So, yeah, that's a rare car, but I mean, at this point, you have 60. Like, that's really rare. Yeah, the X is going to be pretty rare, too. From what I've heard, it sounds like the X might only be a one-year production car. I've heard a bunch of different rumors on this, though, so I can't say any of this is necessarily solid, but I've heard that the ZR1X is going to be possibly only made for a year. Could have an MSRP of $250,000 or $400,000. I've heard two different sources saying, one saying $250,000, one saying $400,000. And it may also be limited to a certain amount. So even though it is only 1 year, it also may only be a certain amount, and I'm hearing less than 1,000. So it's possible that this ZR1X is going to be even more rare than most people speculated. And yeah, Steven is in here. Yeah, if it sets a crazy ring time, it's going to be easily 500. Yeah, we're going to find out soon. I highly doubt we're going to get a ZR1 time and nothing else. If I had to guess, they're going to give us the time of all the cars they took over there, which I know they had a ZR1, a ZR1X, and a Z06. Possibly even what they called the Z06X or whatever that might be, if that's even a real thing. If it is, we might get a time for that, or we will at least have a time on, like, in the storage whenever that car's announced, if that is in fact coming. Bedhead, what's up, man? Late to the party. How's everyone doing? Good. That's possible too. Official ring times are supposed to be for true production models. Maybe that's why they pushed for a 2025 release. Yeah, that's true. Steven, mine's a stick and the last of the front engine, which, based on the numbers that I originally saw, there was roughly 2,800 C7 ZR1s made. 30% of those were manuals, which takes it down to, I believe it was 800. Let me see. So 2,800, 30% of that is 840. Then the other determining feature for my particular car was that it's black with red calipers. Most of the ZR1s came with blue calipers. So that took it down. I believe mine is like 1 of 4 or 1 of 5. But either way, it is a rare car for sure. But if numbers are what we're looking at strictly, your car is far more rare at this point. So yeah, so Ken says the ZR1 is going to be limited just by the number of people that can either get allocations and or afford to buy them. So I said that years, I don't know if it was years, but a long time ago, I said that the ZR1 was going to be a limited production car, whether GM says it is or not, because there's no reason for them to just continuously churn these things out when people can't afford a $210,000, $220,000 car. The Z06 was already pushing it at, 130 to 150, depending on options. When you're into the 200s, a lot of people are immediately, they're out. So even though GM won't necessarily, put any kind of restriction on how many of these cars they make, they're not going to make them like they did the Stingray and just have them out there, because most people are not going to be able to afford it. That Sweetness says, there's a reason the 26 Z06 and Z01 are going up in price several $1,000s, and we should find out July 4th. Then later, an LT3 and an LT8 engine coming. I'm getting an LT8 and a V8 11,000 RPM car. So I've actually heard some whisperings of a higher revving than Z06 engine coming for the C8 Corvette. I've not heard anything about what the engine's going to be designated, like LT8 or whatever, nor have I heard exactly how many RPM it's going to be. But it's supposed to be higher than the Z06. So Z06 goes to 8,600. So anything over that could potentially be the higher revving version of this engine. Definitely really interesting rumors I'm hearing as of late, though, because the lineup for the C8, like we talked about before, the C8 lineup is likely to go until 2029 to 2030 or so. And if that's the case, we're only in 2025. So what cars are they going to fill the next 5-year gap with? Well, that's probably it. We likely have the Grand Sport coming that could potentially, and me and Ken from Squirrel Cage Garage actually talked about this earlier, the new Grand Sport could potentially replace the E-Ray. This is something we talked about a while ago with Street Speed on the channel here on the live. Him and I mentioned that we didn't feel like the E-Ray was going to be a model that was going to be produced for the entire duration of the C8 lineup, and this would be the way to do it.
So basically, he's just copying all my stuff. I've heard whisperings, buddy. I've created the YouTube videos explaining it over a year ago, when everybody was saying I was wrong. It's just, it's never ending with this guy. It's always bullshit with this guy. It's copycat bullshit, and then he takes credit. It's a joke.